That we had at least today. Scott Martin of Kingsview Asset Management and a Fox News contributor, and Kevin Kelly of Recon Capital Partners. Scott, it's weird what's happening with this market. I don't know how else to describe it. 4 out of the 5 days is sometimes it's way up, sometimes it's way down, over 100 points. It sort of tracks with the economic news. One day we're hearing that incomes are going up. The next day we're hearing retail's terrible, and yet retail stocks are. What's happening?
Yeah, there are a lot of cross currents, David, and let's mix in, I don't know, the elephant in the room, which is the Federal Reserve meeting next week, and probably not hiking rates, David, next week, but probably putting something on the table easily for December. So you're right, man. I mean, I think you got a lot of push and pull here. I mean, gold has sold off, the dollar has rallied, interest rates, even if as the market has sold off, as equities have gone down, interest rates have gone up, so bonds have been sold. So there's a lot of things to look at if you're an investor here. Trump is narrowing the gap, in some cases taking the lead in polls. I think that's pushing a lot of asset classes all around. As an investor, you really wanted to monitor closely here.
Okay, well, one thing that's going to be used on the campaign trail already has been by both the Democrats and Republicans, Kevin, is that income number. It looked great as an average. Our incomes are up, what, 5% over the past year, but it turns out that it's an average, and as an average, the coasts are doing fine. New York and California are doing great, but it's the flyover country, which happens to be a lot of swing states, like Michigan, like Ohio, like Pennsylvania. Things there are much more static. They're flatlining.
Great point.
Yeah, I think it's a great point that you bring up, and it's especially because income levels aren't above where they were in 2007, so we're actually just starting to get back to that level, and it's important to note what companies have given on the guidance in respect to that. Look at SuperValue, look at Ford. They said that the second half of the year is going to be tough for them. It's going to be a struggle, so investors need to be very conscientious, because some retailers are saying, just wait a minute, we're seeing that the consumer is struggling a little bit, especially in those swing states that you talk about.
Guys, hang in there. We're going to come back to you, but first we got an earnings alert. Oracle reporting first quarter results. Let's go back to Lori Rothman for the numbers. Lori.
Yeah, it's a disappointment. It's a miss from Oracle, and what's interesting here is this is the first quarterly earnings miss in 7 quarters for Oracle. So shares are down about 2% in reaction to the report. Let me give you the numbers. 55 cents a share when Wall Street was looking for 58 cents per share on $8.6 billion in revenue, just a little shy of the $8.7 billion in revenue that Oracle was forecast to earn here on Wall Street. So Oracle's been engaging in a transition into the cloud computing industry, and we know that the cloud business did increase by 59% to $969 million. Now, I don't have a comp or an expectation on what the cloud business was expected to generate in terms of revenue, but there you go. A 59% increase by most metrics is an improvement, and a pretty decent one at that. But as we're watching shares, they're coming in a little bit now, just down about 1.5 or 1 1/3%. This is Oracle for you. A miss on the top and bottom line. David?
Lori, thank you very much. Melissa?
Apple is now sold out of the iPhone 7 in jet black and completely sold out of the iPhone 7 Plus in any color at all. Apple stock is now on track for its best week in 5 years.
Wow.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Consumer Safety Agency is set to announce a recall of Samsung's Galaxy Note 7 this hour. Scott and Kevin are back. Scott, wow. I mean, Samsung was just poised to eat Apple's lunch, and then they blew it. No pun intended.
They really did, and I'll take another pun for you, Melissa. You know, Apple stock has been on fire while the Samsung batteries have had so much trouble, and that may be really the case here. I will tell you this, though. Remember when Tim Cook delivered the iPhone 7 reveal? It was kind of poo-pooed. You know, there were a lot of things that were talked about that weren't good, that I think a lot of criticism came in that was probably overdone, but some reviews have since come out, and they've actually praised a lot of the device's capabilities. So I think that's two things going on. Samsung problems and the fact that the iPhone 7 has come in a little better than expected lately.
I mean, Kevin, the Samsung phone is waterproof, but it's not fireproof. Maybe it shouldn't be waterproof. That would put out the fire. I mean, the jokes are not funny, but they're endless.
Yeah, they've obviously focused on the wrong element. But as Apple has run up, investors need to be very conscientious that the U.S. only accounts for 40% of iPhone sales. The rest, 60%, the vast majority, is internationally. And one of the places they've struggled is is China. Tim Cook 2 quarters ago said that was the next leg of growth for Apple, and they haven't gotten the traction there. So that's one of the reasons why Apple isn't disclosing their first weekend sales, because they're worried about on the international side. And when people do look at how T-Mobile as well as Sprint said they've sold out, it's done well, those are the 2 of the smaller carriers here. So investors just need to be tempered also on their expectations when they're looking at their numbers and the way the stock has moved.
Great points from both of you. Thank you. David.
All right, well, the scandal.